everyone, Mr. Good here. So today what we're going to be doing is drawing the handle on our sides that we cut out earlier this week. Now you can see the crate here that we drew yesterday or a couple days ago in SolidWorks. What we're going to be doing is cutting out the handle right here. So we need to draw it first on our board. Here is the 2D print of that part. Here's the hole for the handle. What we're going to be drawing today is this top and bottom, the arc on the left, the arc on the right, and we're going to be drawing these crosshairs as well. Now it's very important that we draw these crosshairs because that's where we're going to use our Forstner bit to drill. The center of that crosshair right there is where the tip of the Forstner bit's going to go into our board, and the outside of the Forstner bit will extend all the way through here, and the hole will be circular obviously because it's a Forstner bit. But then what we'll be doing is after we drill those two holes, we'll take a jigsaw, which is a tool you guys haven't learned to use yet, and we will cut from the top of one hole all the way to the top of the other hole. And we'll cut all the way from the bottom of one hole to the bottom of the other hole. Piece in the middle will fall out, and then we'll have a slot there. We'll put it on the spindle sander, sand the inside of it out so it's nice and smooth. Put it on the shaper, give it a nice round over on the edge so it's comfortable to hold on to, and bada bing bada boom, your handle's going to be done. So let's get into drawing. So here's my example that is already finished. I have one crosshair here, one crosshair here, and those really are the most important parts, but the bottom edge and the top edge are also very important because that's going to be your cut line for when we use the jigsaw to cut. So there's a blank piece of wood here, and everybody should have two of these. If you don't have two, well, you'll need two. I have some extras up here at my desk if you want to come grab one. Zoom in on it a little bit here. Focus. Now I did print out that 2D print, and you can have this 2D print that's in your resource section under the same folder as the video. You can have this up on one screen, and then you can have my video up on the other screen. Have your headphones in so you're not driving everybody around you crazy, and feel free to stop the video as you need so that you can keep up with me. Alright, let's get started. So first thing we're going to do is the crosshairs are located from the bottom of the side 4 3/4 inches. So we're going to put our tri-square on the bottom of our side. Make sure that your grain is going up and down. Make sure your grain's going up and down. Put the handle of the tri-square on the bottom of the board. Put a mark at 4 3/4. Okay. See how tight my handle is up against the bottom edge of the board? I don't want to see anybody doing anything sloppy like this. Okay, no doing that. You got to make sure that it's all the way up against the bottom edge of your board. Then you're going to rotate your handle. You're going to put the handle up against the side of the board. Line the blade up with the mark that you just made at 4 3/4. And you're going to draw a line lightly all the way across. Okay, lightly, because we're going to erase most of it later so you don't accidentally cut it. We really only need part of it, but we'll draw the whole line for now. Okay, so we have that line there. Now on this line is where the vertical portion of the crosshairs are. That line is the horizontal portion of these crosshairs, but now we have to draw the vertical portion of these crosshairs. You'll notice that the crosshairs are 1 7/8 in from the left and 1 7/8 inches in from the right. So again, I'm going to put the handle of my board up against the edge of my board. The handle of my tri-square up against the edge of my board, I'm sorry. And then I'm going to mark at 1 7/8 on my tri-square. Okay. So there is my crosshairs. No one should be doing one of these. I see this a lot, where people mark the center of a hole with a circle. That couldn't be any more wrong. It has to be a crosshair. It's the only way to pinpoint a point. This leaves so much room for error, so don't make little circles like that. Okay. Now I'm going to flip my tri-square over, and you'll notice that the tri-square on one side starts at 0 and ends at 8. This one starts at 8 on this back side of the blade, starts at 8 and goes to 0. Now if it's too confusing for you to measure from 8 backwards, you can flip it over and measure from 0, but either way works. We need to put the handle of the tri-square up against the board, line up the blade with the line, and draw our crosshair at 1 7/8 inches in. There it is. The location of these crosshairs is crucial. They need to be in the right spot. Now our next step is you're going to get your compass. Now your compass is delicate. You have to be careful with these. Keep it in the case when you're not using it. Put it back in the case when you're done. These knobs down here get lost very easily, so don't loosen them without retightening them, because they will come off and they'll get lost, and if they're lost we can't use the compass anymore. What these knobs do is they tighten the front and the back at the bottom down on the pivot point, and on the other side down on the lead. If you lose these knobs, then there's no pressure here holding that lead in place. If you close the compass, the tip of the pivot point and the tip of the lead should be in line with each other. It is the same length out. Now if they're not, what you can do is you can loosen one of these, whether it be the lead or the pivot point. You don't need to loosen these a lot, just give it a little bit of a twist. And if you take your pencil and you stick it on the inside here, you can push the lead out farther, or the pivot point. They both work the same. Now your lead should come to a nice point there. If it doesn't come to a good point there, you can get a scrap piece of paper and sharpen it down. Of course it needs to be tight when you do it though. Yeah. But mine comes to a good point, so I'm just going to close it back up. Line them up. And then I have my finger on the back holding the back side of that screw. bolt, and I'm just tightening that down. Now it's very important that you tighten those down securely, otherwise they will come loose. Before you use it, if they are lined up, make sure that these little knobs are on there tight so that they don't come off and get lost. If you drop it, make sure you find it right away. Okay, now if we take a look at our crosshairs, the arc around the crosshairs has a radius of 3/4. Now you don't have the printout in paper, and I don't want you to put the pivot point on this computer screen, but just so that you can see how we can set this compass when we have a drawing that already exists, you put the pivot point in the center, and you'll have the lead on the outside, and as you swing it around, that lead follows the line we're going to create. How you guys are going to set it is you're going to take your compass and you're going to put the pivot point at one number, and then you're going to adjust this knob in the center up here at the top so that the lead is at 3/4 of an inch away from the pivot point. Now you can start at the 0 if you want to. You can start at the 1 if you want to, the 2, the 3. It helps if you start at a whole number, but it doesn't matter if you measure backwards. 3/4 behind 3 inches is still 3/4. 3/4 in front of 3/4 is still 3/4. So put that pivot point down and move that lead so it's 3/4 of an inch away from the pivot point, and this will allow us to draw a 1.5 inch circle. So radius is the distance from the center of a circle to the outside of a circle. Diameter is the distance from the outside of the circle through the center to the opposite side of the circle. Okay, so you guys see how I did that? You do this very gently. If you push too hard, then this lead or this pivot point is going to get shoved back in inside the compass, and you're going to have to loosen these up to pull it back out. So just do this gently. You don't need to do it real dark. You just hold it at the top with 2 fingers like this. Just rotate it around. Real gentle. Yeah, it kind of looks like he's looking at it. It's looking like he's got a nose too. It's kind of neat. Alright, so next thing we're going to do here is we're going to draw the top and the bottom of that handle. So you're just going to put the handle of your tri-square up against the edge of your board. Make sure that that handle is snug up against the edge. You're going to line up the blade of your tri-square with the top of those 2 arcs. So you want the blade to be tangent with those 2 arcs, and we're going to draw a tangent line from one arc to the other. Okay? And that line there is the top of our slot. So you can see that line starts at the top of the circle and ends at the other top of the circle. And we're just going to do the same thing down here. Remember, you got to keep the handle of your tri-square up against the edge of the board. Take your blade, line it up with the bottom edge of the circle, draw a tangent line from one circle to the next. So that line looks like it's just maybe a 32nd of an inch too low, but I think we'll survive. Okay, so Now everything's all drawn. I don't have anything else left to draw, but I do want to erase this line, and hopefully you drew it lightly like I said. I'm going to erase that line because we don't want to accidentally cut that line and think that that line right there for some reason is a line that we need to cut. So we just erase it. Okay? This line here in the center doesn't need to be there, so you guys can erase it. Okay, and this arc doesn't actually really need to be there either, because you're not going to cut that. It's going to get cut away by the Forstner bit when you drill it. Okay, so what we'll end up doing is drilling a hole here with the center of a Forstner bit there, 1.5 inch Forstner bit. And why don't we just write 1.5 inch Forstner bit. So that you guys all know that it needs a 1.5 inch Forstner bit. Okay, write that up there on your board. That way when you guys go out there, you know what size it needs to be. When you pick up that Forstner bit though, make sure you measure it on the tri-square or a ruler to make sure that that Forstner bit's actually 1.5 inches. You didn't grab the wrong one. So once you drill with a Forstner bit, if it's too small of a hole, you can't drill it bigger. Well, everybody's got two sides, so go ahead and start the video over if you need to and do your other side. But the holes, the center of those holes are very important. They need to be lined up perfectly horizontal. Otherwise, then your top and bottom of your handle there are going to be crooked. So take your time, do it right. You messed up, do it again. Make sure if you drew too dark on this first one, you draw light on the second one. And if you guys need a pencil sharpener, remember there is one just inside of the Wood Lab door. You walk in the Wood Lab, it's on your left hand side.